Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's LinkedIn Live event. Our topic is good quality bookkeeping, the key to informed business decisions. I'm Linda Carrington, Practice Management Director here at Wessex Commercial, and I'm joined by Graham Potts, who's our Managing Director and Chartered Accountant. We're going to stick to our usual format. I've got a bunch of questions to ask Graham, but if you've got questions, pop them in the comments on LinkedIn and we'll pick them up as we go. Graham, let's start off with the big topic here, the importance of accurate bookkeeping. You've talked before about rubbish in, rubbish out. What do you mean by this, and what's its significance for business owners, rather?
Yeah, thanks, Linda, and welcome everybody. The main thing is that everybody's heard, sort of different types of the similes on. Sorry, I can't say it. Similes on, rubbish in, rubbish out, crap in, crap out, whatever you want to call it. But this is really important with bookkeeping, and it's getting more and more important now that you've got new systems coming up, and actually where you can add with AI and everything else. Bookkeeping, a lot of business owners don't actually appreciate that bookkeeping is the foundation for financial data, because obviously if you put it in wrong, or you not put it right, or you don't realize where it's going, then it may not be in the right place. It's easy. I see so many times that people dismiss it, thinking it's a routine task that anyone can do.
Yeah.
So, the apprentice come in, they just started training, they can do the bookkeeping. No. It might work for a very small business, very, very small micro business, but actually you need bookkeepers that are trained and qualified to identify and correctly code transactions.
Yeah.
Because if data is entered inaccurately or incomplete, it leads to flawed reports and analysis.
Yeah.
And it can lead to bad decisions, missed opportunities, financial problems. For instance, how do you code VAT? For instance, have they done the VAT? VAT's very complicated. So there's lots of things, and that's not before we get into things we're going to discuss in a minute about the output and how you can use output nowadays so much more effectively.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really conscious that with technology has made it faster to get information in. It's probably faster to make mistakes as well if we don't get the right coding done. So what are the mistakes that you're seeing businesses make regularly?
Yeah, I would actually just sort of follow on from what you just said there, Linda.
Yeah.
The thing is, going back years ago, data was put in batch. It was put in maybe once a week, once a month, whatever, and it was done, and it was manual, or it was onto something like Sage 50. The systems coming through now, like Xero, QuickBooks, etc., QB, they're real-time systems. And if you haven't got the manual data backup, you really need it really done that it's there up to date. So mistakes I'm finding all the time are people, basically bookkeepers failing, or whoever's doing the bookkeeping, failing to reconcile bank accounts regularly. This is where they tick off the payments. When I say reconcile, they look at where they tick off the payment to the correct invoice, purchase invoice, or if it's a receipt to the sales invoice. Basically not categorizing transactions correctly. I've seen where they're from the same supplier and they're coded inconsistently. So they're coded in, let's just say above the line in direct costs and then below the line. Well, I can't say it now. Got sort of going funny with my speech today, and going below the line. Now, I've also seen where are things in or out? Where does software go, for instance, for Xero? Where does that go? And that makes it hard to see trends because it keeps on going up like that. Delaying data is a massive issue. Delaying the entry of it and creating a massive backlog. And then when that happens, people are like, they're getting chased, business owners chased for money. They're not sure what's on there. They look at the system, or they don't trust it, and they can make big mistakes.
From our point of view, as an accountancy practice, it's sort of inconvenient, but actually from a business owner's point of view, It's inconvenient because it maybe messes up our schedule, but the bigger picture is that it has an impact on people's business decisions.
It does, because sometimes they're not sure how much they pay. They don't really know what they owe, who they owe to, and they don't know if it's, especially if on the sales side it's not being done, they don't know who owes the money and what's outstanding. Yeah. So how can you run a business? Because everybody knows that every business owner I speak to, it's mainly about, am I making enough profit? Have I got enough cash? Can I limit my tax? Can I save my tax? What tax planning? Well, cash is key. That's the number one. You've got to have cash. And if you don't know what you're paying and what you're not paying and where you've paid it, and sorry, you're not, that is the critical thing. And you've got to have good bookkeeping to be able to do that. I've also seen where businesses mix personal. They don't know if it's personal or business expense. You get a lot of confusion with whether it should go on a profit and loss or balance sheet. So you get lots of items put just to a code, or sometimes they code it to suspense, and then nobody just leaves it. And then people don't realize at the end they've had a profit and loss account showing no profit, but there was a cost they weren't sure where to put it, and they put it to suspense, which goes in the balance sheet. So it doesn't come off it doesn't show as a cost in the profit and loss account.
Yeah.
Nowadays, you can keep, if you scan things on, so you should be able to have all your information, your receipts, should be digitally there for you on the system. That's often not there. Duplication of invoices, especially where you're being chased for money and you don't know what's been paid and what's not. And then sometimes someone might put it on twice and you're not sure, or they're chasing, so you pay it again. And basically not trusting the system, because the system's not up to date or not accurate. So many times that business owners or other members of the man have their own spreadsheet, which actually hasn't got all the information in, so it's wrong as well. So you've got the accounting system wrong and the spreadsheet wrong. You shouldn't have both. You should just have an accounting system that's up to date and accurate.
Yeah, that's a single source of truth, isn't it? So exactly. In our business and working with clients, we focus on Xero and also in most cases use DEXT. So how can we use those tools to improve bookkeeping practices?
Well, you have to, first thing I say is that just be careful. You do need to talk to experts, because as businesses get more complicated, right, some of these tools may not be absolutely perfect for you. All right. So I'm just going to put a big government health warning there. But generally for small business owners, DEXT Prepare automates data extraction from receipts and invoices. That reduces manual entry and errors, although you still have to check it to make sure it has taken all the right information, especially when you get something like an energy bill where you've got I've seen it with energy bills where there's a lot of things outstanding, not being paid, or there's credits. So you just have to be a bit use your nous with it, but it does cut down on time and you have all the information there. Xero provides a cloud-based platform for real-time financial reporting and collaboration, because it's got an open API, so you can add other tools to it. And these tools and others help businesses save time, they improve the accuracy, and you get better insight. For business owners, a big thing for me is you actually can tweak how you put the information in, have a look at, and what comes out can be much more useful to you to see where you're making money, where you're not. You've got things like DEXT Precision and Xenon that can connect with Xenon Connect, which basically helps monitoring the quality of the bookkeeping. So there's lots of tools out there, but you do need to talk to people that are good at bookkeeping, understand bookkeeping, understand the latest tools to be able to utilize and maximize the efficiency of Xero and the apps.
And you've talked about the way bookkeeping the data entry side of things has changed. So why is timely bookkeeping so important for businesses?
Well, I think the first thing I'd say is we live in a time where everybody wants things now. Everything's changed. It used to be you used to have to wait for the check to come in the post. You had to wait for, to get all the information. That was a couple of years ago. Yeah. So, some of us maybe a bit old, and we've actually used manual systems a long time ago. Right. obviously not me, but
No,
no, I've used
not
manual
at all.
systems, and I used to have to do it on a ledger with columns and everything. But anyway, the thing is, everything happens so fast now,
Yeah.
and the systems now, you can't always spot where there's errors. And so to stay on top of your cash flow, you need to know who owes you money and who you owe. And if you haven't got it up to date, you don't know who you're chasing. You may not be chasing that bad debt, the one that's got slower, because it's not up to date. You don't know. It may be that you're paying something, like I said, you need to be checking, because you may be paying someone that you shouldn't be paying. And also, like, if it's up to date, it means the information means that if it's up to date, it means you get accurate financial information if you've entered it correctly, which helps you understand the performance, because you shouldn't. We've all been talking about how you should have up-to-date management accounts. In the past, you had to wait till your accountant came with you with a set of figures that was 6-9 months out of date. Now you should have management accounts at least quarterly, if not monthly, because everything's changing so fast. It used to be you knew where you were going. You can't forecast so easily now. Everything's got quicker. Everybody, you think you've got this work and suddenly it's gone. Everything happens so quickly. You've got to have this up-to-date information so you can see what happens if I lose my biggest customer? What happens if they don't pay me on time? You've got to have a look to see where you're doing, because everything happens so fast. The other thing it does, it makes tax preparation easier and less stressful. So, like, for instance, especially VAT, I have seen so many people that are doing the books at the end of the quarter, and they got to write themselves off for 2, 3, 4 days. Why? And you can't remember people's attention span, because you've got so much information coming in. People's attention span, you can't remember what happened 2 weeks ago. You might remember yesterday. That's why you have to have it up to date, so it's there. And someone asks you, say, oh yeah, that goes there. But if someone comes and asks you 3 months ago, what was that payment for? You're going to remember?
No.
And especially if you made a load of different payments. So really, it keeps you on top of your business. Enables you to make informed business decisions based on current data, so you know where you are.
So tell me a little bit more about that then, Graham. What kind of business decisions can people make with good quality bookkeeping in place?
Well, it basically allows you to spot trends and problems early on. For instance, we just put Xero projects into a couple of clients, and you can then track job costs against income. So, like, we've separated out every job. And on one of the clients, it's actually we've separated out on every type of trade. So you can track for job cost against income. You can look at locations. You can look at types of products or services, etc., maybe different customer groups. So that's one thing. I would also say I cannot advise as a business advisor. I cannot advise, and I do a lot of FD, financial director type advice. I can't advise if the data's not up to date or if it's incorrect. That is, you've got to be able to trust the data. Otherwise, I can't make the decision, or it's going to be very waffly. I've run my own businesses, and I know, and I've been in, run a large corporate division of a corporate. You've got to have that information to be able to make decisions, because most of the time you can't make decisions on, you haven't got time to, get everything back and grab it. You need to make a decision now, today.
We were talking last week about gut feel, and I feel quite strongly. I mean, we business owners need to have a bit of a gut feel about what's happening in the business, but also the data needs to back that up. And if you're in a situation where you're having to take some tough decisions, or you want to go for a big opportunity, you need to be confident that what you think might happen is borne out by the information that you've got on your system.
Yeah, exactly. It's you can. How can you make business decisions if you haven't got up to date information? Especially as you grow. I would say, reiterate, if you're very micro, you've only got 1 or 2 employees, you might be able to cope. But once you've got, say you've got 10, 20, 30 employees and you've got business all over the place, your brain can't cope with it. It needs, all the detail needs to be on the system, and then it needs to be channeled so it gives you like one sheet. So, or just one of the KPI, one sheet of KPIs.
Yeah.
Because when I talk to business owners, the number of business owners that don't understand accounts.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got to teach them in a different way, but they understand cash. They might understand a bit of profit and loss. Most have not got an idea on balance sheet. But they're going to ask you, I get asked, what do you think, Graham?
Yeah.
Well, I can't explain or tell them if I haven't got the right information. Yeah. So I just say it really does help you set realistic goals. It helps you manage your cash flow effectively, and it can help you plan for the future with some confidence.
Absolutely. So perhaps, Graham, as we're kind of getting through the session now, just summarise with some examples of how poor bookkeeping can negatively impact businesses.
Well, I've seen so many different things, missed opportunities for growth due to inaccurate financial statements, basically. Mm-hmm. Costs have been put in the wrong place, and so you're making, you think you're not going to go for something when you should. Mm-hmm. Also, late filing, unnecessary tax penalties due to incorrect or late filing.
That's my yeah. Hate that one.
Yeah, so it could be on payroll, could be on VAT, could be on anything. Overspending or underpricing due to lack of cost awareness. If you don't know what your break-even position is, you might be pricing, and actually you're pricing, you're never going to make a profit. Mm-hmm. Also, I've seen so many times overspending because businesses haven't got effective stock control of some sort. Even if it's not digital, they haven't got a manual control. It's like, they buy something and then someone goes in, why have you bought that for £500? I've got one in the warehouse. But they didn't know. That also comes to communication as well. Mm-hmm. Cash flow problems caused by delayed payments and unpaid invoices, especially when you're reliant on 1 or 2 large customers, that money doesn't come in, and they've always paid on the 17th, we'll be all right. And then suddenly they're not paid on the 17th because you haven't got the right information. You haven't given the information. Actually, they haven't got the invoice, so you've got to wait another month, 60 days. You need to understand that you have to be in the head of the game if this happens. And not realizing that the business has issues that need rectifying. I've seen that so many times where high margin works, something's doing really well in a business, but there's a little cell of terrorist activities that actually grows and grows. And actually you're not making as much profit as you should, because the low margin work, or sometimes it's 0 margin, or you're making a loss on something, is affecting the rest of the business, but you don't know. And how can you, and actually, if you close that bit or get rid of it or adjust it or work out what's wrong with it, suddenly your profits can go right through the roof. Yeah.
We've got a quick comment here from someone on LinkedIn who said that outsourcing is a good decision to expand business by cost cutting and good quality. And I think, we're absolutely in agreement that
I actually agree, and that's one of the mantras I've got in my team is, how can we make this better? How can we make it more efficient? How can we be quicker? How can we help the client? How can we realize they don't understand? So help them. Outsourcing is something that's good, but it depends. There's certain tasks in a business that may not be best to be outsourced.
Yeah.
But so not one size fits all, because if you've got a good team, they may have a handle on things. If you get a lot of problems, like with credit control, it may be better, for you to handle it. We do credit control for a client, and they prefer us to do it, but it's actually, we're on top of it, ringing the client, making sure they got the invoice, getting the money in quick, so there's lots of things like that you should, do.
Yeah, absolutely. And it all works much more smoothly when that information is flowing through, doesn't it?
Exactly.
So, which brings me very, very nicely to how we can help businesses to improve their bookkeeping and make those informed decisions. Graham, what kind of support can we offer?
Well, I mean, my first thing to say is whether it's us or anybody else, basically get good bookkeeping.
Yeah.
That's key. I said, especially as you grow. So that's number one. What can we offer? Yeah, I don't like sales pitching because, sort of basically all our work really comes from referrals anyway. But we offer bookkeeping services like DEXT and Xero, but we have clients that do it themselves. The ones that do it themselves, if they're doing good, that's great. If they're not doing so good, that's when I get involved to try and say, we need to take it on, or you need to find someone else. And I'm quite happy to have those conversations.
Yeah, or train people up, give them some guidance.
Or
and
train
support.
people, train them to understand. But you need some sort of level of understanding, some sort of like part qualified or qualified by experience at least. For our clients, we provide training support to help businesses understand and manage the finances. We help them automate their systems. So we'll look at different apps and everything, so that actually what's best for them, so they can get better efficiency, better accuracy. We work very closely with clients to ensure that the information is accurate, reliable, and actionable, that we can, they can take decisions on it. In all, it's very much like, get the information coming in right. The system does the churning, but make sure it goes in right, and you know the manual processes that go with it, who's doing what. Then it comes out. Then when that information is coming out, how does it come out? Make sure that it comes out in a way that a business owner or the director shareholders understand. All right. And actually, is there better ways now with the technology out there? There are things coming up. If you get the bookkeeping right, you'll be able to get that information out quicker, better. And it's still not always 100%. Don't always trust software 100%. You need someone sensible to look at it, because it has little glitches. We all know little times when you have to switch off the skybox or switch off or reboot the phone. It's exactly the same with any system. But once you reboot it, then, I'm a great IT expert. I just switch on and off. 95% times it works. But basically, we can help, where we like to help our clients is giving them meaningful business advice based on that information. So we can say, look, you're making money there, or you're not making money there, or you ought to, have you considered this? That's really what a client wants. They want to be able to, because they don't understand, most of them. I said, sorry, but there are some really good people out there that are not good people that really understand it. But there's so many business owners, because we deal with mostly with family companies and that, they've never been trained. So if you're not being trained in accounts, you don't understand it. So we can help them and spot issues early on. Look, hang on a minute, we've got a problem here. What about there? Or if you thought about that. And I would reiterate, we are business people. Like I said earlier, I've had my own businesses. I have basically run a large, I was running a division that had 2,500 employees around the world. It was all about information, getting the right information, because as a business owner, you have to make quick decisions. And you have to, if you can't put your head in the sand, you may need to make quick decisions, and you need an accountant or accountancy firm or whoever, a trusted advisor, to help support you with that. And you need the data there to be able to make those decisions. And information, basically the decisions have to be made quick on usually incomplete information. So the more up to date and accurate your information is, the more likely you are to get your decisions right.
Yeah. Graham, that's fantastic. Thank you. I think, you've absolutely nailed it there. This bookkeeping is not something we can take lightly. It's underpinning everything that we do in business. So thank you for that, and thank you for the question and comment that we had today as well. So if you're thinking, oh, is my bookkeeping right? Am I getting the information that I need? If you want to have a conversation with Graham, he's offering a free one-to-one session. So pop us an email, chatwithgraham@weststatescommercial.com, and we'll get that set up for you.
Sorry, Linda, I just want to say one other thing. I'd also say, if we're very much that we make sure we're right with the clients.
Yeah. So
we have, if we're not right for you, we have a network, and we'll put you in contact with someone else.
Yeah.
And basically recently we referred people to another bookkeeper that's all they wanted. They didn't want the rest of it, and they actually sorted it. It was better for them to go for this bookkeeping firm, local bookkeeping firm.
Yep.
We know, and the same with accountants.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
we don't fit. We're not one size fits all. We're very niche.
Not for everybody.
Not for everybody. But if not, we might know someone who can help you.
Definitely. That's a really good point. Thank you. And this brings us to the close of our 23-24 season on LinkedIn Live. We're going to be back in September with more video content, and ask us, or tell us what challenges are keeping you awake at night. What questions have you got for us? Let us know, and we'll see if we can incorporate that into our plan. So thank you very much for being with us today, and have a good rest of your day. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.